Venezuela for British citizens. They have an advantage on the country, and yes, today we will discuss.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
There is an advantage of being a British citizen in Venezuela. Yes, there are a lot of advantages. And this is a fact that I'm pleased to see. I'm very surprised since I started with Venezuela Insider. Something I'm seeing that the British are amongst the citizens of Western nations that they can actually bend a lot. They really understand the situation and get the most out of their Venezuelan experiences on all regards. I've seen many people in the past few years visiting, traveling, investing, and also living in the country, and I'm seeing a lot of cohesion between British citizens that, of course, they are in the country, and also the Venezuelan people in every regard, even better than American citizens. We discussed just a few weeks ago about the advantage of being Americans, and of course, there are some caveats with that. However, British citizens don't have to deal with that. Also, something that British people have done pretty well is taking aside, putting themselves away, separating from the EU citizens. And this is something that has nothing to do with Brexit. Because according to the average Venezuelan, the sentiment that I'm seeing on the average people, also with business acquaintances, is that Europeans, actually, they don't do as well in Venezuela unless they are willing to put the work, to understand the culture and also understand how everything works. However, the mainland Europeans, the Europeans from the European Union, something they are not getting, sadly, regarding the people and also the business that they cater towards them, though, or they have clients from the European Union. In most cases, not all cases, they are deemed as cheap and difficult to deal with. However, British citizens, they are doing everything great compared to the mainland Europeans, and actually are having very positive reviews, experiences, so they are creating a good face for themselves. And by the way, this is nothing against mainland Europeans from the EU, but I'm seeing a lot of mistakes that the mainland Europeans are making in the country. People from Germany, from Switzerland, that already did a video about it, Spaniards, French as well. So they are committing a lot of mistakes that are damaging the good grace of Venezuelans. I will put aside the Dutch. I will say from the mainland Europeans, the Dutch actually are doing pretty much well in Venezuela. However, British citizens are doing things great for the most part, and most of them are doing everything great. So shout out to you. And so they are creating actually a very good aura amongst the local population. So let's start by bureaucracy. Let's, eat the veggies first. And what is going on with the Venezuelan bureaucracy that is awful? The Latin American bureaucracy is horrible. However, in Venezuela is way, way, way worse. Bureaucracy is probably the worst part of being Venezuela. And for internationals, it's even worse to take care of business and doing something else, because you have to comply with the local bureaucracy. And what happens is, compared, for instance, with Americans and Canadians, they are required to get a tourist visa in order to visit the country, let alone getting an investor visa. That's something else. But it's next to impossible to get, and my clients already know that. However, British citizens can travel visa-free to Venezuela, so they can just skip that process. And after that, and this is something I explain a lot of time, the bureaucracy is going to be easier in Venezuela if you're a national from a country that has good diplomatic relationship with the Venezuelan government. On the case of the Brits, actually, the UK has a very good diplomacy, good diplomatic relationships with the Venezuelan government. And this is a pleasant surprise even for me, because a few years ago was an issue that, well, we're not going to get into that. However, in the past, let's say a year and a half, The diplomatic channels are working pretty well. So British citizens are getting good treatment actually from Venezuelan authorities, and they are doing everything. I mean, it's easier to work with Brits than, for instance, with Americans or Canadians, and even some cases with Western Europeans. This is regarding bureaucracy, remember. Now let's talk about social environment. Well, what happens is something that Venezuelans never lose, and something, a very particular trait that Venezuelans have, is that they treat very good the international, especially the Western international. That I mentioned that before with the video regarding Americans and Canadians. They get a good treatment, even better treatment than the rest of the internationals. However, the British citizens actually get close to the same treatment as well. So they get a good treatment, but however, unlike the Americans and Canadians, that it's very, very difficult for them to visit the country. Regarding British citizens, actually, they can visit the country way more easily. So they can experience more the good fate of the average Venezuelan. What happens is when you come from these countries, especially the Anglo countries, well, you know the list. Venezuelans usually are gonna give you a positive discrimination. They're gonna give you good traits that you may or may not have, and of course, if you get that treatment, please create the confirmation bias. And Brits actually are doing so. They are managing very well. They are making friends very easy. And in some cases, they have become celebrities within the country. And they're doing pretty much fine. They're making friends, good network, also getting a good ROI regarding cost of living and travel and so on, because they know how to manage this compared to the EU citizens. Now, let's talk about business. British citizens doing business in Venezuela, well, that's not as common. However, some of them are investing on properties, and on a few cases, they have some entrepreneurship endeavors. What happens is, regarding business, this is not like the social side when the average Venezuelan treats very well the international. On business, it's not the case, because most business in Venezuela are catered towards the Venezuelan wealthy citizen instead of internationals compared to other countries in Latin America like Mexico and Colombia. Very good. What is happening is that, especially from European citizens from mainland Europe, they are, on the past few years, this is not my words, this is the words from some acquaintances that have businesses as well, is that they are damaging that reputation on the business side, just on the business side of the international and the European clients. Most of them, not all, of course, I have a lot of very good European clients. However, they are creating the reputation, people from Germany, from France, from Switzerland, from Spain as well. Italy is kind of a wild card, and I'll put an exception on the Dutch, is that they are being deemed as cheap and difficult to work with. So many business, they are disregarding clients from the European Union. However, Brits have been able to separate themselves from the mainland Europeans and doing things better, a lot better. So also they are deemed as being more trustworthy and less difficult to deal with. So very good for you British citizens that done a couple of business here in Venezuela. And lastly, well, I know this is the dessert of this meal. Let's talk about dating. Brits are the best nationality regarding dating Venezuela on the recent years. What is going on is that Europeans, like yet again, they are, not doing things great. They are creating a bad reputation for themselves, deemed as cheap and difficult to deal with. But also on this regard, Americans and Canadians that actually, I'll say they do pretty much okay when they have the opportunity. The thing is, with Americans and Canadians, they don't have that much opportunities because it's very hard for them in order to create, getting the visa and so on and visiting the country. But when they do is all of nothing, or they are very good or they are very terrible on it. Well, British citizens are kind of getting the point on how things work. First, they have the positive discrimination amongst the females, so very good on that. After that, they took advantage of this positive discrimination, knowing things, how to do things, not being cheap, dating Venezuelan females, but at the same token, not just throwing money to women, because something that I'm seeing with some internationals. So they're doing pretty much everything okay. So very good for you, British citizens. Keep it that way, please, if you keep coming to the country, because you are creating a very good reputation for yourself. So shout out to you if you are watching this from the UK, or if you're watching it already in Venezuela and you're already living here. So with that regard, please, I'm just going to say, you want to read on your comments below if you are from the UK and you visited already the country, or if you're thinking on visiting the country on the future.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.